What's up, guys? Philip at Trade Genius. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin price action. What's it going to do this week? We're going to take a look at some scenarios. Also going to look at our 2014 analog chart and see how we're tracking that. I think you guys are going to be very interested in what that tells us. Real quick before we dive in, just want to remind you guys, we're going to extend this back to school special one more night. That's tonight. And guys, if you get into the room, which is this one here, this is a yearly price we've slashed way down. I'm going to throw in the TG oscillator. You're going to mention that when you order it, you're going to get free access to the TG oscillator. And that's going to be an interesting indicator. I'm going to do a video on that this week. And you're going to see how it really differentiates from all the other different oscillators out there. And you're going to be able to identify true oversold, overbought levels and when the trend has changed. I'm very excited about that. It's very different than what's readily available for trading in TradingView as far as those types of indicators. So I just want to let you guys know that. Get into this here. This would be special number one, $3.99. All right, so let's check out this Bitcoin chart. So one thing that we've been tracking is this 2014 chart that I worked up, and I identified different price points. And if you look at both charts, you're going to notice that they look eerily similar. And the reason for this, primarily, whenever you look at an analog chart, which means you're going to go look at a different time period for similar price action, is just because it's market psychology. A lot of people will look at it at a one-to-one scale, meaning either it's on a daily chart for both charts. A lot of times you'll see these comparisons back to the stock market crash because we're in another stock market bubble. So people start looking for where the charts line up, and they've been, so that's kind of like a lot of where this has come from. But in crypto, especially with Bitcoin's market cycles of blow off tops and then pullbacks, you'll notice that this market structure looks the same. So in going back and reviewing, I saw that, when I pulled up the 2014 chart, we were kind of same market structure, but it wasn't expanding, like the time expansion wasn't the same. So I fixed that, and as you'll see as we get into this, that we're probably looking at a period of time. And keep in mind, this is tracked from the top. So this is all of this year this has basically been the same roadmap. Basically what we're looking at is a slow grind higher, and the bottom is in for this cycle. We'll take a look at that. So let's start with the weekly chart on Bitcoin. Okay, so basically, and we'll take a look at the monthly one when August wraps up and see where we closed at. But on the weekly chart, what I'm looking for is to get above this WMA 20. That's the one I like to use. That's kind of like my momentum indicator. And so if we get above that, that's when I start looking for, okay, are we getting a macro? That's your first signal. Are we getting a macro directional change? The next level would be either breaking previous support and resistance, trend lines, and then the other indicator I like to use is the WMA 65. So again, the resistance, and a lot of times what you'll see is price will come up to this level and fight it. And so this is where I start eyeballing this level. You'll see it fight it. Sometimes the weekly will close over it. But a lot of times when we do reach that level on the smaller time frame charts, so then you drill down to like a daily or a 4-hour, you'll see that weekly level being fought. That's why I pick these indicators, because they seem to be very good at that. Now, obviously we're in a volume node here, and with that volume node, we also have a volume void. So, we're pressing up into this area where a volume void is going to possibly give us a pretty quick move up to 73.36. Now on the weekly, what we're looking for ideally would be a close above last week's close. Last week's close was 67.07. So as we head into Sunday, I'd like to see this bar close higher than that. And our weekly, right now everybody's kind of eyeing the 6,800 level, but the weekly level, the next weekly level that I'm really looking at is around that 7,000 mark. Okay, so let's take a look now at the daily. And again, guys, we're just kind of looking at what's going to happen coming up in the week for Bitcoin. And now daily, we've crossed over that WMA 20. Now we're butting our head against the WMA 65. and I'm looking for that level to clear. The WMA 65 is 68.38. So it's around that level that most of the crypto universe is looking as resistance. And I would, obviously we don't like buying highs. We like to buy pullbacks. And so, what ideally what we would do is we would pull back into this zone here, which is this volume node here. And I think that would be a good risk reward entry. You also have some prior support right there. So I think that would be a great risk reward entry. Get a bounce off there. That should hold, as I'm going to show you in the analog chart, and take us up to this 7,000 plus level. All right, so that's the daily play. If we go down to a 4-hour chart, we're holding this trend line again. This volume node here, if you notice too, we've got a nice trend line here. So all that kind of, this area here is an area that I would be looking at for getting long and trying to ride this trend. And you got good support in this area. Look how long we consolidated in here before that level finally cut loose. We had a head fake, but again, that was due to large part BitMEX going down. And I think a lot of guys saw an opportunity to run stops. Either that or it was a hedging position that broke between, let's say, BitMEX and Bitfinex, because there was some strange order activities between those exchanges. So that was kind of a one-off event. Normally we call those head fakes, but there was that was kind of more of a circumstantial move. But again, the true meat of this move was in here. So now that we've broken above that, we're looking to buy that back for support. We did have a pullback here, but again, this 6,800 level is not going to give up without a fight. And there's a lot of resistance in that area. This broke down at this point here back in August 18th, and if you notice back here, this has been a big area of resistance back in July. So this is a reason why this level is going to be fairly stout. Once we break above that, you have to keep in mind too, we've got this next range of resistance, and that's going to take us from 6,900 up to almost 7,200. So keep that in mind, guys, as you trade into this week. Now, why would the bottom look like it's in? Well, let's take a look at our 2014 comparison. Have this on a 4-day chart. Why a 4-day chart? Not only does it line up scarily good, as we get into these market cycles into a parabolic curve, like we saw in 2017, but they're fractals, so they're going to happen in different time frames. So now we're in a larger time frame, and these corrections, these moves are going to start to speed up. And this 2014, that's just market psychology. Okay, that's market psychology. The equilibrium of people going long versus trying to sell or sell short is changing. You'll see that once the sentiment switches over, the equilibrium switches over to buyers, the shorts are not going to be as aggressive, and they're going to be a little more careful about picking their levels. So what we see here now is we're at this point here where, and I got this arrow drawn up because that's basically going to mimic this move that we saw here. And this move here was a lot of small ranges and then no significant pullback really, right? Just kind of just moved up into where it blew off a bit, and then we had a pullback. So that would take us, if we're time tracking correctly, that's going to take us to about the first week of September. And that's something that not a lot of people in the cryptoverse are really looking for. They're not looking for a grind higher that accelerates like we've seen in the past and then has like a mini blow off move. They're not looking for that right now. They're looking for this thing to hit its head, and we'll look at that on the daily chart over here. So they're looking for this trend line not to hold, the 200-day moving average not to hold, or to just come back up here and roll back over. So that's something that, again, I say, look at stuff that the masses aren't looking at, and that's definitely something they're not looking at. So with this comparison chart, until it stops working, and at some point these things do decouple, but until it stops working, you've got to be aware of it. So we'll just kind of review this every week and see how we're tracking it. But to ignore it at this point would be pretty stupid, especially since we've been, I mean, look at, it's like you're almost looking at first glance the same exact chart. So that's the kind of stuff I look for, and the stuff that most people aren't looking at. And right now, most people aren't expecting a gradual grind higher into a kind of a accelerated move into the first week of September. Like, no one's talking about that. So that's one reason why I really like this setup. So anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, and ring that bell if you're on your mobile, and you'll get notified on our new videos every day. And until the next one, guys, take care. Bye.
Trade Genius.